essentially written for Clinton, Comey, Brennan, and others. CIA director suggests Hillary Clinton could face criminal prosecution as part of Obama-Russiagate investigation. Check this out. Hit subscribe and subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. You'll have a segment up on there immediately after this live stream. Subscribe there. We're growing that channel. Let's get started. And to my super chat, your support is so greatly appreciated. If you enjoy these live streams, check this out.
Donald Trump's election by the American people was...
Okay, well, we'll have to go to this. This is exactly why why Comey will be convicted. It's right here. You're also going to hear Andrew McCabe. So here's the Andrew McCabe testimony. You're going to hear the Comey testimony. Sorry about that. That was an article, I think, in the Independent. But at least I read the title. And then you're going to hear the exact moment in 2017 where Comey committed perjury. This ties into the declassified documents. And this ties into the OIG report. And this ties into the Durham probe that is going to indict Hillary Clinton. Check this out. This is the moment where Comey committed perjury, but Andrew McCabe testified that Comey lied right here.
Comey authorize you to disclose information about the Clinton Foundation investigation to the press?
I didn't need James Comey's authorization.
I didn't ask if you needed it. I asked, did he authorize you to disclose it? That's a yes or no question.
I authorized the disclosure.
Okay, you're still not answering my question. Did James Comey know about it, and did he authorize it? Yes or no? Did he know about it?
To my recollection, sir, yes, he knew about it.
Did he authorize you? Did he in any way give you the green light explicitly or implicitly?
I didn't ask Jim Comey.
I'm not asking whether you asked. I'm asking, okay, according to the Washington Times, April 18th, 2018, Mr. McCabe insisted he told his boss that he had authorized disclosure about the Clinton investigation, but Mr. Comey has denied this claim. And Mr. McCabe told investigators that Mr. Comey knew he had authorized disclosure and agreed it was a good idea. Is that accurate? Is that your testimony to this committee?
That is my recollection.
So
that is where, with all due respect, and Andrew McCarthy is a brilliant man on Fox News, knows more about the law than most people on the planet, including myself. That's where Andrew McCarthy, I think, is wrong. McCabe is on record as stating that, and they're always trying to circumvent perjury traps while at the same time creating their own perjury traps. Comey referenced an article, the article in 2017 in the Washington Times quoted McCabe as stating that Comey authorized the leak. He's on record. You just heard it here. Okay? This ties in directly to the imminent indictment of Hillary Clinton.
DOJ, that is your testimony under penalty of perjury before this committee.
Senator,
and I warn you, there is abundant evidence that there were.
Senator, if you're not going to let me finish my answer, I'm not going to be able to accurately answer your question.
Please go ahead. What is your testimony? Is your testimony, you just said there was no discussion of the Logan Act. Does that remain your testimony?
No, Senator, that's where you cut off my testimony.
Please continue.
I would like to finish
Please
my
continue.
answer. Thank you. When we initiated the case against General Flynn, it was not initiated for or as a result of any discussion.
Mr. McCabe, you're being non-responsive to the question. I didn't ask about the initiation. The Logan Act was a late pretext that was adopted after you investigated him and couldn't find anything, and the career investigators recommended closing it. All right, since my time is expiring, although the chairman took a little bit of my time, so I'm going to take a little bit of it back. Did James Comey authorize you to disclose information about the Clinton Foundation investigation to the press?
Okay, this is why all of these answers tie into indictments of Clinton and others, and conviction of Comey. Okay, McCabe indirectly took money from Hillary Clinton and Democrats indirectly. Okay, McCabe, the IG report stated that he had to leak information for self-serving purposes to make it seem that he was autonomous or independent and not influenced by Clinton and the Democrats. McCabe got the brunt of the IG report, Michael Horowitz's Inspector General report, that turned Comey into a white knight. Here, in a letter submitted by McCabe's counsel, after reviewing, this is page 31 of the IG report. They keep mentioning the IG report. It condemns Comey and it condemns McCabe, but it kind of blames McCabe only for the leak. And it does condemn Comey and the FBI in terms of bias and other corrupt practices, but it saves Comey from the IG report said it was McCabe who's lying, but the IG report shouldn't be believed, according to McCabe's counsel. In a letter submitted by McCabe's counsel after reviewing the draft of this report, the IG report, McCabe argues that the OIG should credit Mr. McCabe's account over Director Comey's. So again, Mr. McCabe's account is directly opposite. It's the antithesis of Comey's account, and complains that the report paints Director Comey as a white knight carefully guarding FBI information, while overlooking that Mr. McCabe's account is more credible for at least 3 reasons. Again, the OIG, the Inspector General report, was a bureaucratic review. It wasn't a trial, and McCabe, Comey, all of them were lying and at the same time trying to give snippets of truth to protect themselves while they were covering up the Clinton email probe and covering up the fact that they went after and framed President Trump. We know this now from the declassified documents from Tulsi Gabbard, which you'll hear about in a second. That's the point, ladies and gentlemen. That's why these live streams are so important. Okay, I'm showing you exactly within the IG report where Comey committed perjury, or at least where McCabe is on record as stating Comey has committed perjury. And you will hear again right now Andrew McCabe testify that Comey lied, and then you'll hear the lie. So this is very, 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 very important. This is extremely important. And so you can go back to this, and we'll do this all the time. You can go back to this video or this live stream, and you can see the moment he lied, the moment McCabe testified that Comey lied, and this all leads to Clinton, and we'll talk about how in a second. And so the perjury, the indictment of Comey is going to lead to superseding indictments. That was a placeholder indictment. But check this out. This is Andrew McCabe stating categorically that Comey lied.
I didn't need James Comey's authorization.
I didn't ask if you needed it. I asked, did he authorize you to disclose it? That's a yes or no question.
I authorized the disclosure.
Okay, you're still not answering my question. Did James Comey know about it, and did he authorize it? Yes or no? Did he know about it?
To my recollection, sir, yes, he knew about it.
Did he authorize you? Did he in any way give you the green light explicitly or implicitly?
I didn't ask Jim Comey.
I'm not asking whether you asked. I'm asking.
So Andrew McCarthy at Fox News, brilliant man, made a big point about, well, McCabe didn't ask Comey. Well, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant because McCabe is testified that the Washington Times article is correct. The Washington Times article that Ted Cruz brings up now states that McCabe accused Comey of lying. And this is the interaction.
Asking, okay, according to the Washington Times, April 18th, 2018, Mr. McCabe insisted he told his boss that he had authorized disclosure about the Clinton investigation, but Mr. Comey has denied this claim. And Mr. McCabe told investigators that Mr. Comey knew he had authorized disclosure and agreed it was a good idea. Is that accurate? Is that your testimony to this committee?
That is my recollection.
So that is my recollection means yes. Okay, he's not circumventing any perjury at all. He got completely railroaded by the OIG, and now that testimony right there could be used to convict James Comey, because the article that he accepted, which is the article that he said was accurate, that is my recollection pertaining to the article, stated that Comey lied about the following: the 2017 interaction with Chuck Grassley. It's so sordid that you have to go back in time and forward and back in time. But check this out. This is all of them trying to circumvent perjury traps, but it ain't working. And they're trying to circumvent perjury traps because all of this leads to Madam Secretary and the DNC. Check it out.
Have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
So that's not what you heard right this second. It's very difficult to. That's not what you heard right here. Okay, let's see if I can. Okay,
Mr. McCabe insisted he told his boss that he had authorized disclosure about the Clinton investigation, but Mr. Comey has denied this claim. And Mr. McCabe told investigators that Mr. Comey knew he had authorized disclosure and agreed it was a good idea. Is that accurate? Is that your testimony to this committee?
That is my recollection.
So
there you go. There you go. That McCabe's recollection is exactly the opposite. Okay, because he couldn't, try to circumvent and get his way out of answering that question. So that's the conviction of James Comey, because just here, we'll hear it again. You just heard McCabe say it was his recollection that Comey not only knew about it, but said it was a good idea and essentially gave authorization. So the whole authorization thing, people are focused on. It's like if you create an environment where your top officials can leak information to foment stories, to fabricate stories, to set up and frame Trump or whatever it is, you create that atmosphere if you're Comey, and then McCabe does so. Well, I mean, even Attorney General Loretta Lynch was saying that there are too many leaks coming out of the FBI at that point. All they did was leak information to journalists, and the journalists are public. It's public record knowledge. I would never, pick an argument with anybody. There's no need to. It's public record knowledge who a lot of the journalists and publications were. They leaked information. Comey, McCabe, and others either allowed people or told people to leak information. The information was false, not misinformation, false information, fabricated information. The journalists then, dutifully and eagerly and, the vanguards of truth and justice wrote and published, the editors and the writers and the reporters and all of them published information that was false. Judges then looked at the information and said, oh, let's investigate Trump more. It's public record. The judges didn't know that the information was being leaked from people who despised Trump in government and published by journalists who despised Trump in media and read by an impressionable public who couldn't understand how Clinton lost, thus creating a new Cold War and McCarthy-era Red Scare hysteria. Okay, they created this. They fabricated and created news through leaks at the behest of Hillary to help Hillary Clinton. Not because they received a memo from Bill and Hillary. Bill didn't write, hey, I want you to go ahead and start leaking information. But they did so for self-serving purposes because they despised Trump.
Been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
Never.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
And you just heard McCabe contradict that. But also, page 31, right here. In a letter that explains that Director Comey's white knight while overlooking, McCabe argues that the OIG, in a letter submitted by McCabe's counsel, McCabe argues that the OIG should credit Mr. McCabe's account over Director Comey's. Well, what was Mr. McCabe's account? You just heard it. That Comey knew, said it was a good idea, and created a culture of leaking. Okay? That's the issue. It wasn't necessarily that Comey had to authorize. It was that he created a culture of leaking for a specific political purpose. That's the issue. Dean, thank you so much. Thank you, Dean. Greatly, greatly appreciated. To my super chat, thank you. Thank you, Dean. Greatly appreciated. That's the issue, ladies and gentlemen. That's the issue right there. Okay? Now, check this out. This is the latest. This is the 2020. This is the 2020 testimony between McCabe and Cruz. Between Comey and Cruz that everyone's looking at right now. That references the 2017 Chuck Grassley testimony that is refuted by the 2020 McCabe testimony with Cruz. So check this out.
All right, let's shift to another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
All right, I'm going to make a final point because
Okay, he's not going to categorize Andy's testimony, but Andy said that the OIG should credit Mr. McCabe's account over Director Comey's and complains that the report paints Director Comey as a white knight carefully guarding FBI information while overlooking that Mr. McCabe's account is more credible for at least three key reasons. When people say, well, there's no case here, well, then why did McCabe's counsel say that his recollection is more credible pertaining to leaks than Comey's? So the buzz, the analysis from, great many respected legal analysts, or certain respected legal analysts, not just the Fox News contributor, but a lot of other people, especially people who want to paint this as just partisan. This is not just Trump and partisanship. It's like you went after Trump for 10 years, trying to imprison him for nonsense. This is actual law breaking, and you're okay with it because it suited you politically. But this is how it relates to Clinton. Okay, this is why eventually Brennan, Clinton, and others will get indicted. You saw the Independent article that started off, but it was a commercial right away, so I had to get out of it. But check this out. So all of this, we'll get to the Durham probe also, but all of this testimony is undermined or is highlighted or magnified by what Tulsi Gabbard is stating. These are conspiracy statutes that will be on the way. And it'll be very difficult for a jury, even a DC jury, to look at the fact that Clinton purchased this dossier, Steele dossier, and all of the people involved are linked in some way to Hillary Clinton, from McCabe to, money with McCabe, but from McCabe to public relations executives, to agents that said they wanted her to win at the FBI. I mean, all of that, to the DOJ loyalists. But you literally had one political party embedded within government setting up and framing Trump. And so check this out.
They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The records that we released on Friday that were ODNI records, Senator Chuck Grassley's release on Monday of what is known as the Clinton Annex, which was an appendix to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's 2018 report, as well as the House Intelligence Committee's majority oversight report that we're releasing today, all come back to and confirm the same report. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people. I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence Report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory.
Hey, this is Senator John Austin.
The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous.
Implausible, if not ridiculous, had Comey and Brennan and Clapper and all of them looked at the initial intelligence community report, intelligence assessment, all of that. So they made such a big deal of Trump being linked to derogatory intelligence assessments. The initial assessment stated Trump was innocent. And it's like the same lefty, liberal, progressives who would be offended at words are eagerly and vehemently cheering intel agencies setting up and framing an innocent candidate. Trump was an innocent man. It doesn't matter if you find him offensive. He was an innocent man. The same people who would say that Trump is offensive are the same people also many of the same people who wouldn't mind him being wrongfully accused. So it's just unbelievable. The concept of morality among many morally superior on the left and the right. There are people in the United States of America who would rather accuse Trump of things he didn't do under the absurd premise that doing so would benefit the country. That's how warped and twisted and delusional the people who have Trump derangement are.
The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote-unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the president, President Obama. It directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts, using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community. The production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the president and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report also shows how later that same day, on December 9th, Brennan ordered the publication of quote-unquote substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been withheld from publication of prior assessments because the information was judged, quote, to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some of the information later used in the Obama-ordered assessment over the objections of veteran CIA officers was, quote-unquote, unclear or from unknown sources. The Intelligence Committee's oversight report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, "We don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected." Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, "We assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances, when possible, by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him." End of quote. The CIA and FBI, then led by John Brennan and James Comey, expressed high confidence in this judgment, while the NSA expressed moderate confidence. Yet, as the report we released today shows, the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The opposite is true. With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, "Contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex."
The United States intelligence agencies literally used a fabricated documents literally purchased by the DNC and Clinton's campaign. Hillary Clinton literally purchased a hoax and funneled it through with the help of the Democratic National Committee and operatives and lawyers, the United States government. We knew this in real time. Everyone knew this was taking place when BuzzFeed published in 2017 the dossier. Everyone knew this. This was so overt, but the thing is, there was such tribalism and such partisanship. Partisanship has turned into tribalism. There are morally superior liberal Democrats who won't speak to family members because they're so indoctrinated. They'll put fake, phony political hoaxes above family bonds or friendships that have been lifelong. It's the myth. This is a mythology. It's not just a hoax. It's become a mythology among liberal Democrats and the left. They don't realize how corrupt and immoral and criminal their political side has been. They don't care because for 10 years they went to bed with Jimmy Kimmel, woke up with the Washington Post, and saw the ladies at The View in the day and read thousands of articles stating that Trump worked with the Kremlin, that Trump said both sides, that Trump caused, the shutdowns and all of that, which Democrats caused in more ways than one. And so there are people who the reality that they live in is that Trump is Satan. That's the reality that many liberal Democrats live within. That's why it takes 2 weeks of negative media coverage to start keying Teslas for certain wonderful, morally superior, highly educated progressives or liberal Democrats. It takes 2 weeks to key Teslas. It takes 2 weeks of media coverage to oust Biden. It takes less than 2 months to forget about Bernie Sanders being cheated or Biden being thrown out of the 2024 contest after he won his primary. They just move on to the next apoplectic thing, like in a Pavlovian political cult that they're within, that they don't even know they're within. But anyway.
John Brennan lied, and he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee staff, as they investigated this, quote, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, refused to remove it. And when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true?
So Brennan knew of everything. That's why John Ratcliffe, that's why in the thumbnail you see John Ratcliffe smiling, okay? John Ratcliffe, probably, let's just assume, the most powerful agency in the U.S. government, we'll assume, is the CIA. I'm making an assumption. I'm not stating a fact or speculating. Let's say the CIA is the most powerful or has the most information, okay? Maybe they all, derive information from each other, the NSA, whatever. But let's say the Central Intelligence Agency is where all of these things could start, from Watergate, maybe, to the Russia hoax. Well, now, if John Ratcliffe has access to pretty much everything that John Brennan had, and he knows, and he's been talking about how Clinton committed crimes for 10 years now. Ratcliffe is on record as stating that Clinton and others almost certainly committed crimes. Then he has access to everything that they did. Tulsi Gabbard can declassify a whole bunch of things, and she gets a whole bunch of documents and information that was hidden because John Ratcliffe is at the CIA. I'm speculating here, but also Kash Patel at the FBI and Pam Bondi at the DOJ. But Brennan is now, his former position is now run by John Ratcliffe. That is a huge sea change. And then James Clapper, his former position, Director of National Intelligence, is now Tulsi Gabbard. Everything they hid 10 years ago is unearthed now. That's why the indictment of Comey you just saw in the beginning of this live stream is easy to prove a conviction. It's easy to get a conviction just with those 2 counts, but there will be superseding indictments. There will be likely so many people indicted that Democrats are going to have to run on, protecting these people from prison time. That's literally going to be the Democratic mantra in 2026 when they try to retake the House. And so they'll say, "Oh, Trump is extreme," and "Oh, by the way, free Comey and Clinton and Brennan and Clapper and all these people." You will have the furthest left communists and socialists aligning directly with former intelligence agency officials who set up and framed Trump and created a new Cold War. That's the left in the United States of America.
Even the bipartisan Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report published in 2020 criticized the FBI's handling of the Steele dossier, noting its completely unverified nature and purposeful sidestepping of intelligence community procedures in its use. Now, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others, including their mouthpieces in the media, knowingly lied as they repeated the contrived narrative that was created in this January 2017 intelligence community assessment with high confidence as though it were fact. John Brennan, as CIA director, stated in a memo to his agency staff in December of 2016, saying, quote, "There is strong consensus among us on the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election." This was reported by NBC News, confirming that Brennan, along with James Clapper and James Comey, agreed with the CIA's assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win the presidency. As Obama's Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper was tasked with overseeing the creation of this assessment in January of 2017 by President Obama, and he expressed confidence in its findings. In a 2018 interview with the Harvard Gazette, he talked about how he provided Trump with the same classified assessment that President Obama received, which included the high confidence judgment that Putin directly ordered the hacking and election interference. Clapper then went on to add, "I think they, the Russians, actually influenced the outcome."
But Comey wrote the Comey letter prior. The whole thing was so absurd. Comey that memo, when he wrote that memo, it sunk Clinton's campaign. I remember hearing from people who really weren't into politics. Politics was not like part of the national consciousness the way it is now. It wasn't like performance art and like spectator, like a sporting event. In 2015, 2016, you could still get a good write-up of Paul Ryan in like Time magazine, that type of thing. That would never happen now for any Republican, unless it's like, they sell their soul against Trump. But I remember like the week before 2016, people saying, my God, Clinton again? That memo, the Comey memo, is what sunk Clinton's campaign. But once they lost, and the DNC emails showed that Clinton literally wanted Trump because the Clinton campaign thought that Trump was too extreme. So it's like they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it's all about emotion. What they did, what Comey and McCabe and Brennan and Clapper and all of these people did, was manipulate the emotions of highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrats who wanted to believe hoaxes and myths and lies because they couldn't accept the reality that they no longer had the future of the United States in the palm of their hands. They had 8 years. President Obama won, and I was a Democrat my whole life. I cried tears of joy. But then, after 4 or 5 years, realized that he was very similar to George W. Bush, which is why you have never Trump Republicans and Democrats in love with one another today. It was very similar. But Trump is very different from Bush and Obama. And so President Trump now, he would never send Americans off to never-ending military conflict. That's the real reason why he is so popular and why he won twice. And Democrats don't get it. People who don't like Trump, they don't understand. They've been indoctrinated by too many lies from media and from intel agencies and all. They don't get it. President Trump won twice because of his foreign policy, which was a complete sea change from Bush and Obama's foreign policy. That's why. And that's the moral imperative to have voted for Trump, if you don't want never-ending military conflict. The second Biden gets the presidency, look what happened. Look what Russia did. The second that he does, a year later, look what Russia did. But anyway, let's continue.
This is a brief summary of the details that you'll find within the House Majority Staff's report in their investigation into the Obama-directed January 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment that leads us to the very same conclusion that we announced in the release of our documents on Friday. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election and launch what would be
So the Durham probe is also a huge part of why Clinton will get indicted. You saw how Comey could easily be convicted in the beginning of this, but check this out.
I recognize the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Durham, isn't it true that Danchenko admitted that information he provided to Christopher Steele in June of 2016 was, quote, rumor and speculation?
Correct.
And Danchenko himself estimated that he was responsible for 80% of the intelligence and 50% of the analysis in the Steele dossier. Is that right?
That's correct.
Do you agree with his assessment or his estimate of his participation in the dossier?
Yeah, we have no reason to doubt that. I mean, Steele identified him as the primary subsource or the principal source of the information.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Steele used that rumor and speculation to build his dossier. And we've wandered all over this. There's none of those statements were corroborated at all. And yet, Danchenko's reputation for veracity was considered bad. He was considered a boastful man who had low credibility, right?
There was information that the Bureau had along those lines, yes, sir.
Yeah. And in fact, when he lost his visa, his work permit, he used a Russian business as a front to basically fraudulently get a visa to work in the United States. Is that right? Page 128 of your report.
Yeah, he went to work for a company in the United States, and Steele was paying him through a cutout through that company in the United States.
Yeah, most of us who look at that area of the law regularly, like I do, would say that's immigration fraud. So, and it's also true, we talked about this, it's true, there was an FBI counter-espionage investigation into Danchenko 2009 to 2011, and that was a result of him approaching a Brookings Institution co-worker trying to essentially solicit espionage on behalf of the Russian government. And then, even though the Washington field office is right there and he lived just a few miles from the Washington field office, the case was closed on Mr. Danchenko, that investigation, right?
The Danchenko investigation was being done by Baltimore, the Baltimore field office, but that's right, he stayed where he
nonetheless, he lived around. I live out there. I know. I live around the corner from there. So let's take a look at. Let's boil this down. After determining that nothing that Danchenko told Steele could be verified, it was all a pack of lies and innuendo and rumor.
So they used a pack of lies, innuendo, and rumor. But here's the issue. 30% of Democrats still believe the pack of lies and the innuendo and rumor. And Biden's White House wanted a disinformation governance board. They talk about how Trump's an authoritarian. You couldn't find greater despots and totalitarians and authoritarians than the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats in the Biden administration. They wanted a disinformation governance board. They wanted a part of the United States government to completely eviscerate and destroy the First Amendment, and to find out who is spreading information that misinforms, as they actively spread the greatest hoax in American political history.
After further determining that he had attempted to solicit espionage for Russia, and he had himself been subject of an investigation by the Bureau, and after having committed immigration fraud, the FBI hired him on as an informer and paid him $220,000 and proposed an additional $300,000 to be paid to him. Now that's your testimony, that's in the report, it's all there. And that's even after the Validation Management Unit had determined that Danchenko was a concern and likely had connections to Russian intelligence. That's in your report as well.
Correct.
And very Special Agent Helson knew most of these facts, but continued to endorse Danchenko's recruitment and payment as a confidential human source, right?
That's correct.
So I'm going to give you these things, and I think you understand why so many of us are underwhelmed with some of your recommendations about FBI, but overwhelmed by what's gone on here. The FISA application, we've talked about that, where that came from. We talked about that the FBI has conducted millions of unconstitutional backdoor at FISA 702 searches. Disparate treatment of Hillary Rodham Clinton, which you discuss in your report. The sweetheart Hunter Biden plea deal that would send normal Americans to jail for years. He's getting nothing. We have 50 intelligence officers signing onto a letter stating they would rather have a job in the Biden administration than tell the truth to the American people. The Hunter Biden laptop suppression. The DOJ targeting parents at school board meetings. A federal prosecutor setting a quota, essentially, on additional January 6th individuals. He said he's got to get 2,000 more. That's a quota. That's a bounty. DHS targeting Catholics at church. Hoaxes villainizing border agents while the border itself is under attack. That's all from this agencies. And I understand that you're loyal to your institution. I get that. But Ms. Sparks gave an excellent enumeration of all the things that you found in your report. And that's why people like me, and I don't want to speak for anybody else on here, we're baffled, just utterly baffled, that more people have not been held accountable for their crimes. Because these are crimes. What's gone on in this country, the division in this country today, I can trace back to one thing. It isn't Trump going down the escalator It is the Steele dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton through the cutouts, and that's caused the division in this country today. I yield back.
So Congressman Andy Biggs is 100% correct. Okay. Page 25. Was it page 25 or page 32? I don't even know. It says page 25 here of the OIG report. That is essentially the conviction of James Comey right there. If McCabe's counsel literally states that McCabe's account is more credible than Comey's, which is that Comey essentially authorized or allowed the leak. The word authorize is not the correct term. It should be just allowed. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back later with another live stream. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. I'm going to do a video on there.